Hello, and welcome to Empowering Independence, the role of assistive technology in occupational therapy. I am Caitlin Estes, and I graduated as a Doctor of Occupational Therapy from UCA in 2020. I sincerely wish UCA's Department of Occupational Therapy a happy 50th anniversary. UCA was instrumental to my own journey in the area of assistive technology, and my hope for this presentation is that you will start reflecting on your own practice and consider how assistive technology may support your clients in achieving greater occupational outcomes. I want to give a quick overview of my own journey incorporating assistive technology into my practice as an occupational therapist. I had the wonderful opportunity to experience several instances of assistive technology in my fieldwork experiences. During one experience, one of my fieldwork educators created a DIY sock aid out of a nosy cup for a student with functional use of one upper extremity. However, this particular child still needed a way to don his AFOs using one hand. So, during a dressing activity, I tested the socket to see if it could be inserted curved side up instead of curved side down into the top of the AFO. To my amazement, it worked, and the student was able to don his AFO with minimal cueing the very next treatment session. For me, this experience reinforced the idea of modifying the activity to meet the needs of a particular individual by incorporating assistive technology into the task. After returning to UCA following my Level 2 fieldworks, I was approached with the idea of completing my capstone project in the area of adaptive gaming, which was perfect because I enjoy gaming as a leisure occupation myself. Throughout the experience, I learned a multitude of ways to adapt video games to meet the needs of individuals who are otherwise unable to access traditional games. This experience solidified assistive technology and truly made it my favorite and most relied upon intervention strategy. During this experience, I was able to develop a multitude of resources around gaming, which, if you're interested, you can find by searching for my WordPress site, Making Rehab Fun Again. After graduation, I had several experiences that continued to reinforce my interest in the area of assistive technology. Right out of school, I began providing services in an inpatient rehabilitation center. One of my favorite activities to address in this setting was phone use and the navigation in order to support safety and social relationships following discharge. During sessions, clients and I would collaborate on the best accessibility settings to support their ability to contact 911 or a loved one after they discharged. This often included onboard accessibility features such as font size and ensuring the most important apps were on the home screen with decreased distractions. Simple changes, I have found, can sometimes result in what seems like the most significant improvements in independence. Finally, I really wanted to center my practice around assistive technology. So I transitioned to a full time role at Easter Seals, Arkansas Outreach Program and Technology Services as an assistive technology specialist. During my time at Easter Seals, I have been able to support children in preschool and school settings in achieving higher levels of independence in their daily activities, particularly in the area of education. Please note, while I will be referencing several great resources Easter Seals Arkansas offers, I am not acting as a representative for Easter Seals Arkansas or any other entity in my creation of this presentation. In this presentation, it is my goal to incorporate examples of assistive technology across the lifespan. Now that you know a little bit about my journey, let's start yours. During this presentation, you will define assistive technology, identify the steps in the AT service delivery process, identify at least one device that you think may benefit a client you work with, and select a resource that will support you in your practice. What is assistive technology? The Tech Act of 1988 defines assistive technology as any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially, off the shelf, modified, or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of individuals with disabilities. And, according to the World Health Organization, assistive technology enables and promotes inclusion and participation, especially of persons with disabilities, aging populations, and people with non communicable diseases. The primary purpose of assistive products is to maintain or improve an individual's functioning and independence, thereby promoting their well being. They enable people to live healthy, productive, independent, and dignified lives and to participate in education, the labor market, and civic life. It is difficult not to read that statement and not think that assistive technology is the perfect intervention strategy to support occupational therapy. So let's consider how assistive technology fits into occupational therapy. The American Occupational Therapy Association, AOTA, has recently released a draft position statement regarding assistive technology and occupational therapy. In the document, AOTA outlines the service delivery process. The service delivery process begins with intake, followed by collaborating with essential team members, taking into account the practice setting, evaluating the client, providing assistive technology intervention, and finally, ensuring positive outcomes of the assistive technology services. I'd encourage you to take a closer look at the draft position statement on AOTA following the presentation. However, for this presentation, I'll focus on evaluation, intervention, and outcomes, which you should be familiar with as part of the occupational therapy process. The Tech Act of 1988 described assistive technology service as any service that directly assists an individual with a disability in selection, acquisition, or use of an assistive technology device. Per the Occupational Therapy Practice Framework, an evaluation should include an occupational profile and an analysis of occupational performance, which may be done using activity analysis and assessments. I've included a few examples of non standardized assessment strategies that I have personally found helpful in the assessment process. A few examples are linked. These include observation, structured collaboration, such as the SET process, which stands for Student, Environment, Task, and Tools. It is helpful to enter the SET meeting already having the data needed from other sources. A special note here: team decisions are essential in order to pick the best device. Client caregiver provider interviews, any data from current or past technology trials. One of my favorite tally sheets for switch access is linked and is by the Quiet. Activity analysis, a leisure inventory to determine motivational activities as well as areas in which we may need to explore further for adaptation. Technology skills assessments. You can find this one online, linked on Arkansas Transition Services. The DeCoast, which is available for free by Don Johnston. The WADI, which looks at multiple educational areas and helps school teams consider different assistive technology adaptations and interventions. And the UPAR, which is currently available for free in Arkansas public schools. In addition, I found traditional assessments utilized during the evaluation process to be informative to selection of assistive technology, which includes but is not limited to range of motion, manual muscle testing, ADL assessments, and more. Sensory assessments are particularly helpful in informing you if you should or should not avoid or target specific types of assistive technology due to texture, sound, or other preferred or non preferred stimuli. Assistive technology must not just be provided, but the use of assistive technology must be taught. AT evaluation does not result only in equipment recommendations, but in other interventions as well. The occupational therapy practice framework defines assistive technology intervention as the assessment, selection, provision, and education and training in use of high and low tech assistive technology. They also mention the application of universal design principles and recommendations for changes to the environment or activity to support the client's ability to engage in occupations. When intervening, I very much prefer to teach the use of assistive technology in the occupational context in which it is intended, whether that be ADLs, education, work, or others. Per the Occupational Therapy Practice Framework, outcome measures should be considered prior to intervention and should be related to client goals. I automatically think of the COPM, Goal Attainment Scale, and data based on measurable client goals. Per AOTA, when analyzing those outcomes, you may also plan to re-administer assessments that you use during the evaluation process. And this data should inform your future plan, whether that be continuing, modifying, or discontinuing the intervention. When you review assistive technology literature, you will find assistive technology is categorized in a variety of different ways. However, I have personally found that it's easier for me to understand and apply assistive technology when it's categorized by occupations or activities. So for the purposes of this presentation, I am largely categorizing assistive technology by occupations outlined in our occupational therapy framework. In addition, when reviewing assistive technology in education, I have further broken down the occupation of education into more specific categories as outlined in the Arkansas Assistive Technology Guidelines published by Easter Seals in 2018. Also, in the literature, you will often see continuums from low tech to high tech, which I will briefly touch on when I talk about communication within the occupation of education. The occupations in the occupational therapy practice framework include activities of daily living, abbreviated ADLs, instrumental activities of daily living, abbreviated IADLs, health management, rest and sleep, education, work, play and leisure, which are listed as separate occupations in the occupational therapy framework, as well as social participation. If you need a refresher on the specifics of each category, be sure to review the most recent published version of the Occupational Therapy Practice Framework published by AOTA. Here, I have several examples of assistive technologies that can be used to support activities of daily living. As a quick note, I am not intending to promote a specific brand or device over any other, and I will be mentioning a multitude of brands throughout the presentation. Be sure to do your due diligence when selecting assistive technology and choose devices based on their features and not based on your familiarity or preference for a specific device. The next device pictured is an example of an assistive technology device used for toileting. In occupational therapy, I do feel like toileting is a relatively familiar occupation when it comes to assistive technology and durable medical equipment. Immediate thoughts that come to my mind include rails, bedside commodes, raised toilets, and bidets. However, I chose to include something a little less expensive, which is the Jugo Toilet Aid, and you can purchase that online for people who may not be able to independently perform toilet hygiene. There are also other DIY solutions that practitioners may explore prior to purchasing that I'm not going to list here. Next is a handheld shower head to represent personal hygiene and grooming, which can often be purchased for $10 to $15 at local stores. When I worked in inpatient rehab, I often had conversations with my clients during ADL activities about their plans upon their return home. A handheld shower head is a relatively inexpensive and easy to install solution for showering. Pro tip: purchase or make a DIY shower head holder to mount the shower head at waist level so it can be reached from a sitting position. Also, ensuring that the shower head has an on and off feature can make this step a bit more comfortable. Other simple DIY solutions for bathing and hygiene might include things like built up handles on toothbrushes, automatic toothpaste dispensers, a switch adapted hair dryer, nail clippers with a light. The possibilities are endless if you think about the relationship between the activity and client factors that influence the completion of the activity. Next, I have a picture of dressing aids. Oftentimes, clients will receive these devices as part of an inpatient rehabilitation stay, but I like pediatric therapists not to forget about dressing aids in their settings. Remember my story about the client I treated in preschool who used a DIY sock aid to don his socks and AFOs? Be sure not to overlook dressing aids for clients across the lifespan. And finally, I have included a picture of a joystick for a power wheelchair. In my experience, wheelchairs are perhaps one of the most important areas to ensure proper client, caregiver, and team collaboration to ensure the client receives the best wheelchair that will serve them in all their environments and occupations. It is very disappointing when a client has received a wheelchair that is not compatible with their communication device, computer access, or other occupations because the team did not take the time to fully consider the client prior to determining which wheelchair to purchase. This specific joystick is Bluetooth compatible, which would allow a client with limited upper extremity mobility to utilize the joystick to access their personal devices, such as their phone and computer. Next, we will review several examples of technology supporting instrumental activities of daily living, known as IADLs. IADLs can include child rearing, and instead of suggesting a specific device, I have provided a screenshot of iOS accessibility. With the evolution of smartphones, more and more accessibility features have been built into the operating systems of the devices we have in our hands. For example, the iPhone can alert you to specific sounds, including a child crying, and other companies like Samsung can also alert you to sounds in your environment. Always be sure to check and see if a client's phone can support their assistive technology needs before making a needless purchase. By the way, Apple just released news that the eye tracking will soon be embedded into their devices. Next, you will see a brailler, which is compatible with smartphones. There are accessibility features built into smartphones to support individuals who are blind or visually impaired, which I highly recommend exploring, but it is also very important to consider client preferences when recommending a device. In the bottom left, I have included a picture of an adapted vehicle. I am not an expert in this area and recommend seeking professional assistance when adapting vehicles to meet client needs. Next, you'll see a picture of a 3D printed bottle opener. 3D printing is a neat way to create customized devices that are relatively inexpensive for clients. If you would like to learn more about 3D printing, I would recommend voltswitch.org as a place to begin exploring. If you are looking for low cost and free options, many makerspaces and public libraries have now purchased 3D printers for public use and are often offering free courses for 3D printing. In addition, while it is primarily used as a curriculum to teach school-age children, I personally utilize the company Print Lab in order to receive a more structured education in 3D printing. Lastly, safety and emergency maintenance is an essential IADL. You'll see a picture of an Apple Watch which can call an emergency contact if a fall is detected. While not a medical device, this may be helpful for a client who is uncomfortable with a life alert type of device. After IADLs is health management. Health management is an important aspect of all our clients' lives. While you might not initially think of it as an assistive technology, the digital medical record can be a helpful way for clients to remember and access their health information if they are having trouble remembering their medications or important appointments. In addition, for people who have difficulty calling their healthcare providers, they may be able to utilize their health app to message them instead. For example, for someone who has health anxiety, they may find it easier to type their message instead of calling the office. Next, online pharmacies can assist people who have challenges with transportation or who struggle to remember to pick up their prescriptions. In addition, upon request, the pharmacists are sometimes able to prepackage the prescription so they are pre sorted into daily packages as opposed to one big bottle. Electronic medication dispensers, although expensive, can ensure medications are taken on the correct schedule. However, according to my research, this technology still has a lot of room for improvement. While it seems simple, I have found medication organizers to be quite helpful. Medication organizers offer visual confirmation as to whether or not a medication was taken, which can help a client who has difficulty remembering. Clients with arthritis or decreased fine motor skills may find easy open medication organizers more accessible than traditional pill bottles. On this note, many pharmacies, particularly online pharmacies, offer easy open caps for their medication bottles. It is always best to store medications in a locked cabinet inaccessible to children, and clients utilizing the easy open caps need to ensure children cannot access their medications. Lastly, there are a multitude of smartphone applications, including the iPhone Health app, that will offer medication reminders. Other neat features when used alongside a smartwatch include heart vitals, sleep data, and more, which can be exported in chart format and provided at doctor's appointments to help communicate medical symptoms and problems. The next occupation is rest and sleep. I've only included two examples here. One example is for sleep preparation, which is the Amazon Echo. However, most smart home devices will perform a similar function. Using the routine setting, you can create a pre-scheduled or voice-activated routine that prepares the environment for sleep. This might include adjusting the temperature, dimming the lights, locking the doors, routine reminders such as wind down or brush your teeth. On the right, you'll see a picture of an adaptive alarm clock for someone who is unable to hear a traditional alarm clock. The alarm clock has multiple features, including a vibrating attachment that can be placed under the pillow, the clock face flashes, and a lamp can be plugged in to turn it on when the alarm goes off. Newer smart homes and smartphones may be a substitution depending on client preference. Next, I'll talk about education. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be looking at education through the educational activities included in the Assistive Technology Resource Guide for Arkansas Schools, which were originally developed by the Wisconsin Assistive Technology Initiative. I've taken the liberty to combine and rearrange a few of the categories, which include seating, positioning, and mobility, writing, reading, and math, communication, computer access, organization, recreation and leisure, vision and hearing, ADLs, and environmental control. I'm not going to review each of these categories. For that, I would recommend reading the resource guide. First up is reading, writing, and math. All students in public schools grades 3 through 12 have free access to Text Helps Read and Write and Equatio for the next few years. Read and Write includes powerful features like text to speech, text and picture dictionaries, proofing, vocabulary lists, and more. Equatio includes features like equation editors, the ability to convert pictures of equations into editable digitized equations, a scientific calculator, a graphic calculator, and speech to text for math. Next up is the Big Blue Kinderboard. I've included this here because if a student is struggling to use handwriting for written expression, it is important to consider alternatives early on. If you fail to provide access to written expression in an attempt to perfect handwriting, then the student is missing essential educational opportunities. This particular keyboard includes high contrast keys, uses colors to distinguish between vowels, consonants, numbers, and special characters, and features large keys. Earlier, I mentioned the DeCoste as an assessment. The DeCoste can help you differentiate between different modes of written expression and provides data to inform the team's decision. Lastly, I've included a picture of a reader pen, particularly the C pen. There are many different types and brands of reader pens on the market. A reader pen has the ability to read printed text and speak it out loud. This particular reader pen is handy because it does not need to be connected to the internet or a computer in order to work. I'll add that many smartphones have the ability to read text from a picture, so you may consider that as an option for older students and clients if they require text to speech. Next, we'll explore a series of low, mid, and high tech communication devices, starting with a couple low tech examples. On the left side of the screen is an example of an E-Tran, which is a low tech eye gaze system. The E-Tran can be used when first training a client to use eye gaze or as a low tech backup system. The E-Tran requires a communication partner to interpret the communicator's eye gaze. If the communicator wants to express the letter Z, for example, then the communicator will first look at the pink card on the lower right-hand corner of the E-Tran. Notice the Z is colored orange, so the communicator will then look at the orange card in the lower middle side of the E-Tran, which indicates Z. On the right side of the screen, you will see a POD book, which stands for Pragmatic Organization Dynamic Display. The pod book is also dependent on manual scanning and interpretation of a communication partner. For MidTech, you will see two types of battery-operated communication devices on the screen. There are tons of options out there. These particular communication devices are programmable and customizable. The green device on the left is a GoTalk 9 Plus by Attainment Company and can hold up to 45 messages. The red Big Step with Levels by AbleNet, which is on the right, can hold three different messages. Finally, you'll see two examples of high-tech dedicated communication devices. Dedicated devices are specifically designed for communication and are only used for communication. On the left, you will see the TD Pilot by Tobii Dynavox, which is an example of a communication device using eye gaze. On the right, you'll see an Accent 1000 by PRC Saltillo, which is an example of a device that can be utilized via touch or switch access. When choosing a communication device, it is essential that the team collaborates to determine the specific feature of a device that will best meet the student's needs. As occupational therapists, we can contribute our unique expertise of fine motor and motor skills, understanding of vision and visual perception skills, positioning, and more to support the acquisition of a device that supports a client's needs and will not be abandoned. Next up is computer access. I have included several examples of assistive technology I commonly recommend for computer access. Given that we as adults do so much of our work on computers and schools often use computers for assignments and testing, it is important to ensure computer access. In addition, computers are innately more accessible than many other areas of our environment. On the left, you will see a picture of the Optimax joystick, which works as a plug-and-play mouse on the computer. Once again, I'll mention if a client requires power mobility for transportation, be sure to consider whether or not the joystick on their wheelchair would be useful for computer access. There are many options for adaptive mice available online. Next, you will see the adapted keyboard pictured. A special keyguard can be ordered for the keyboard to help students isolate keys. While fairly low tech, I've witnessed quite a few students begin typing when presented with a keyboard with a keyguard. I recommend trialing specific keyboards and keyguards through local resources such as ICANN prior to purchasing. One of my favorite categories of assistive technology is recreation and leisure. Beginning in the first year of our life, we learn essential skills such as cause and effect and social skills through play. The Xbox Adaptive Controller on the left side of the screen allows gamers to adapt their gaming setup with switches in order to meet their specific needs using those switches. Gaming is an activity that can be enjoyed throughout the lifespan, with special consideration given to the opportunity for esports in high school. I've created resources for adaptive gaming on my blog, Making Rehab Fun Again, if you would like to learn more. On the right side of the screen is a Switch Adapted Bluey. Switch Adapted toys can support students with complex learning needs as they learn essential skills such as cause and effect, while also providing opportunities for leisure and social interaction. The next occupation is work. Work is an extremely broad area for assistive technology. I have several items pictured on the screen, which include Dragon Professional. Dragon Professional allows a user to utilize speech to text on a computer to modify documents. Many devices already have speech to text built in. One unique feature of Dragon Professional is that it can learn a specific vocabulary or a specific way that someone speaks. Next is a steno mask, which may be used with speech to text in public environments if a quiet voice is needed. You will notice Microsoft and Google are included, which have accessibility features built into their word processors. Finally, I've included an ergonomic mouse. Most of the technologies on the screen you see are related to computer access, but there are many more examples. For example, adapted tools may include a right angle drill bit or an electric screwdriver for individuals with limited wrist range of motion or arthritis. Visual supports may be used for routines, activities, and processes. Organization systems such as calendars, timers, planners, and sticky notes may support executive function. Ergonomic chairs and desks may improve posture and reduce pain. And consider universal design for environmental access, including entrances, working areas, and rest areas. I already mentioned play and leisure in the education section, but it is worth mentioning again. The first example is a low tech card holder. There are quite a few variations available online. Next is an adaptive TV remote, which features a simplistic layout. In addition to being decluttered, it features switch access ports for someone who is unable to push the smaller buttons. However, this is only going to work with cable TV. For smart TVs, consider voice access or an Apple Home. The Apple Home can be paired with an app on the iPhone, which can be controlled via onboard accessibility features. Lastly, always be thinking about adapted sports and equipment. Pictured is an example of a device used for adaptive skiing. There is adaptive equipment for biking, hunting, basketball, and more. And finally, we will be looking at social participation. Games and video games can be a great way for individuals to experience community and social engagement. An example of a technology that can provide access is an auto catcher for Pokemon Go. This allows users to engage in outdoor walks with friends and families while playing Pokemon Go and adding to their Pokemon collection. Another option of social access is a text to speech app to aid in communication. Live transcriptions in many settings, including social settings, can support users in recalling or being included in a conversation. And a decluttered phone layout available on smartphones can aid a user in finding essential apps on their device and connecting with their loved ones. That concludes our review of devices supporting various areas of occupation. This really is only the tip of the iceberg. Use your great problem solving skills and collaboration skills to identify and provide assistive technology to your clients. Funding devices can be quite challenging. I've linked an article by the Assistive Technology Industry Association written in 2017. Funding options may include organizations and societies, insurance options, federal and state programs, special education and public schools, advocacy groups, state vocational rehabilitation centers, employers, scholarships, private pay, which does include loans, grants, requests for proposals, and other. Be sure to read that article for more details. Remember, you don't have to fund what you already have. One of my favorite sources of assistive technology is the technology already available to you at your fingertips. So prior to the conclusion of this presentation, I challenge you to complete the following activity. You will have 10 minutes to work on the activity, but if you don't finish, I encourage you to work on this activity after the presentation concludes. For this activity, select 1 to 3 devices you have access to. I recommend selecting brands of different devices when possible. Think about the technology you own. This might include computers, tablets, phones, or other technologies such as video game consoles, smart homes, and even your vehicle. Hint, think about newer vehicles with backup cameras, mirror sensors, voice assistants, and more. Right now, though, it may be the most effective use of your time to utilize the phone or computer you currently have in your hands. Try to avoid checking your email, messages, and social media during this time. Accessibility features are often found under device settings. After finding the features, analyze the features by learning what they do and how they work. Take note. A feature does not necessarily need to be listed or labeled as an accessibility feature in order for that device to be considered assistive technology. Finally, consider how that device may support a client you are working with. Please note, following the presentation, you will be asked to complete a post-test, and you will be asked to indicate 1 device you explored, identify at least 1 accessibility feature, and explain how that feature may support a client you are working with. You will have 10 minutes to work on this activity, and there will be a timer on the screen indicating how much time is remaining. You may begin. Welcome back. I hope your time of independent exploration revealed a few key features of device accessibility. Devices are always updating and changing, so it is important to stay aware of any new features that are added time to time. In addition, if there is a feature you think would benefit your client population, it never hurts to reach out to the manufacturer in order to make that suggestion. Assistive technology is highly specific, so you are rarely going to find a research article perfectly defending the use of a specific device used in the specific manner in which your client needs and reviewing the specific client population in which you are working. I have included several research articles that you may find helpful for the population in which you are working, including those who would benefit from technology for cognition and learning, autism, older adults, and students who require reading and writing assistive technology. Most of these articles are open access. However, you can also access research for free through MBCOT, or if you are a fieldwork educator for UCA students, you may be able to access UCA's library. In addition, I have several suggested documents and resources for further exploration. I highly recommend that you read AOTA's recently released draft position statement and review the Occupational Therapy Practice Framework if it's been a while since you last read the document. The Easter Seals Arkansas Assistive Technology Resources Guide is great if you provide occupational therapy services in the school setting. And if you are providing services to preschoolers or students, I recommend reading Inclusive Education, the Case for Early Identification and Early Intervention in Assistive Technology. Don't forget ICANN Arkansas, trial before you buy. And I have linked the SIF's resource document from Ocali, which helps you to feature match assistive technology according to a client's needs. And finally, the U.S. Department of Education recently released a statement regarding the myths and facts surrounding assistive technology devices and services in schools. Here are my references. In conclusion, you learned the definition of assistive technology, identified the steps in the AT service delivery process, with a special emphasis on the OT process, hopefully identified a device described on this presentation that is helpful for a client you are working with, and selected a resource that will help you in your practice. I highly encourage you to dig into the resource you identified and reflect on how your practice may improve with this new information. Thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, please reach out to the University of Central Arkansas Department of Occupational Therapy at otinfo@uca.edu, and they'll get you in touch with me.